Due to predicted snowfall and possible hazardous conditions throughout the day, all of our public schools are closed today, Wednesday, February 26, 2020. Snow day. The snow will be falling throughout the day and everyone's told to stay home. However, yesterday, the CDC also warned Americans to stay home. But if they fell sick, Americans were warned to prepare for the spread of the coronavirus. It went so far as to cause a fight between the Democratic presidential candidates during their debate in South Carolina and the current president of the United States, who wrapped up a 36-hour visit to India. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain how I found out about this. It's free. It's on your app store. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right now from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Please, I urge you, don't waste another minute. I wasted 3 years. I attended all kinds of events to learn all the steps. I was so confused, and it was right here. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Do it now.
Circumstances suggest it's likely that this virus will cause a pandemic. Now, it's not so much a question of if this will happen anymore, but rather more a question of exactly when this will happen and how many people in this country will become infected and how many of those will develop severe or more complicated disease.
That alarm from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, known as the CDC, yesterday warning Americans to prepare for the spread of coronavirus in the United States sent stocks tumbling due to disruptions in China's manufacturing and consumer spending. Now, we've heard, I know people were talking about shortages of the iPhone, and because Apple usually has a lot of their iPhones assembled in China, and there had been rumblings throughout the month. But now, finally, it's starting to really show up. That virus has claimed nearly 3,000 lives and has now spread to over 30 countries, with new cases being reported after travel to Italy. The CDC statement caused confusion because it followed U.S. President Donald Trump's tweet a day earlier, claiming that containment was proving effective and would not jeopardize markets. In his tweet, he said, "The coronavirus is very much under control in the USA. CDC and World Health have been working hard and very smart. Stock market starting to look very good to me." Exclamation point. I guess news from Wall Street hadn't reached him in India. San Francisco's mayor didn't waste any time declaring a state of emergency in that city yesterday afternoon due to the coronavirus outbreak, although no confirmed cases have been reported. Mayor London Breed announced that the city of San Francisco needs to be prepared in case the virus spreads there because, quote, "We see the virus spreading in new parts of the world every day, and we are taking the necessary steps to protect San Franciscans from harm," end quote. The state of emergency allows the city of San Francisco to prepare, although only 3 people have been treated at local hospitals, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. Now, San Diego declared public health and local emergencies earlier this month to redirect state and local funds in case of an outbreak in Southern California. Overseas, the virus has also hit Japan's stocks due to worries it could lead to cancellation of the 2020 Summer Olympics, which are scheduled to start in Tokyo in July. However, this morning, according to the AP, a spokesman for the Japanese government said the International Olympic Committee and local organizers are going ahead as planned with the Tokyo Olympics, despite the threat of the spreading coronavirus. They might want to rethink that. Reuters this morning reports Asian shares fell again because of the U.S. warning to Americans to prepare for the possibility of a coronavirus pandemic, which jolted Wall Street for a second day. I don't need to get into all the figures, but it's bad. The World Health Organization says the epidemic has peaked in China, but concern that its spread is accelerating in other countries is likely to keep investors on edge. As the virus continues to infect more people, scientists are expecting a global outbreak, or pandemic, which means the virus will become prevalent across the globe. Now, we've been imposing quarantines and putting infected people on lockdown to prevent them from spreading the virus. But we are facing a new phase of the coronavirus spread. What's being done? In Italy, the last 2 days of the Venice Carnival were canceled on Sunday due to the coronavirus outbreak in northern Italy. The total number of infected people in Italy soared to 133, causing northern Italian authorities to lock down 10 towns over the weekend. Major events have been canceled until March 1, which isn't far off, including 4 Italian soccer matches because of the outbreak of the coronavirus in the regions of Lombardy and Veneto. However, the cause of the outbreak is still a mystery. In Veneto, a group of 8 Chinese visitors all tested negative. In Lombardy, a businessman who recently returned from China, the epicenter of the virus, has also tested negative. We are now even more worried because if we cannot find patient 0, then it means the virus is even more ubiquitous than we thought, said the president of the Veneto region. In Iran, authorities closed schools, universities, and other public events and institutions in order to conduct decontamination operations. It's not clear how bad things really are in that country, though. An Iranian district mayor in Tehran tested positive for coronavirus on Saturday. Then, late yesterday, the Iranian deputy health minister, Iraj Harichi, confirmed he had contracted the deadly virus after a press conference video from Monday showed him sweating profusely and constantly wiping his forehead. Later, Harichi released a video of himself in quarantine, predicting he would beat the illness. 80% usually do. In Lebanon, it also reported its first case, a 45-year-old woman who had recently traveled to Qom in Iran. Also, in Israel, authorities confirmed its first case, a passenger on the virus-stricken Diamond Princess cruise ship. The infected person had initially tested negative on arrival in Israel. About 100 people in Japan have so far tested positive for coronavirus, not including the more than 630 cases on the Diamond Princess cruise ship, which was docked at a port near Tokyo for 2 weeks. Some of those passengers have come to the U.S. and are currently quarantined.
Inside Princess Diamond, I was so scared. I was so scared of getting COVID-19 because there was no way to tell where the virus is. No green zone, no red zone. Everywhere could have virus and everybody was not careful about it.
That was a clip from a professor of Kobe University that was on the Diamond Princess. Japanese media reports that a 4th person has died after contracting coronavirus while aboard the Diamond Princess, bringing the total to 5 deaths in Japan. Other news. Last week, some residents in the town of Novi Sanzari, east of Kiev, clashed with police amid fears of a coronavirus spread after 45 Ukrainians and 27 foreign nationals were evacuated from the Chinese city of Wuhan, the epicenter of the COVID-19 outbreak. And they were brought to a local sanatorium for a 2-week quarantine period. Despite the riots, the evacuees were successfully brought to the clinic, which was promptly sealed off by police. President Volodymyr Zelensky tried to assure locals that the evacuees present no danger to the community, and to prove it, the health minister, Zoriana Skaletska, announced, "I will spend the next 14 days with them in the same premises under the same conditions." Last weekend, France reported the first death in Europe from the virus, a Chinese tourist who had been visiting Paris. Germany has reported 16 cases of coronavirus, but no deaths. This is interesting. Several of the cases were linked to one company in Bavaria after an executive returned from a visit to China. On Sunday, 20 Germans who had visited China were released from a 2-week quarantine at a German Red Cross called the DRK clinic in Berlin. Also on Sunday, more than 100 German Wuhan evacuees were cleared to leave quarantine military barracks in Germisch, Germany. They were initially 122 on their flight. 2 tested positive for the virus and were quarantined separately in Frankfurt. So Germany's an interesting case. I wonder what was different with them. South Korea reported a major jump in cases with 229 new infections since Friday, taking the total number to 433. That country, which now has the 3rd largest number of cases after China and Japan, also reported a second death from the virus. Most of the cases center around the Shincheonji Church of Jesus, a religious sect in the city of Daegu. More than 120 members of the church have been infected, but officials there fear that figure could rise because more than 1,000 members of the Shincheonji Church reported feeling flu-like symptoms. Also, Samsung Electronics, meanwhile, suspended their operations for 2 days at a plant in Gumi, which is about 210 miles southeast of Seoul, after a worker there was diagnosed with the virus. And organizers of next month's table tennis world championships, scheduled for March 22 through 29 in Busan, have postponed the event to June 21 to 28. Meanwhile, Hubei provincial government admitted that the coronavirus incubation period could be as long as 27 days. This after a 70-year-old man in the province was infected with the virus but did not show symptoms until almost a month later, much longer than the 14 days previously described. So a longer incubation period could complicate efforts to contain the spread of the epidemic. And disturbing news. When I Googled and did a search on how the coronavirus started in Wuhan, I found a new study by a team of Chinese scientists that was published in the South China Morning Post just 2 days ago on February 24. It says the virus didn't start with wild animals being sold at a seafood market in Wuhan. The novel coronavirus that has claimed the lives of more than 2,400 people, well, I think that's close to 3,000 now, according to a new study, says the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, known as SARS-CoV-2, was instead imported from elsewhere, according to researchers from, I don't know even how to say that, Zhishuangzhibana Tropical Botanical Garden, under the Chinese Academy of Sciences and the Chinese Institute for Brain Research. The team, led by Dr. Yu Wenbin, sequenced the genomic data of 93 SARS-CoV-2 samples provided by 12 countries in a bid to try to track down the source of the infection and try to figure out how it spread. What they found was that while the virus had spread rapidly within the Hunan seafood wholesale market in Wuhan, there had also been 2 major population expansions on December 8 and January 6. According to the study, which was published on the Institute's website on Thursday of last week, analysis suggested that the coronavirus was introduced from outside the market. The crowded market then boosted the SARS-CoV-2 circulation and spread it to the whole city in early December 2019. Earlier reports by Chinese health authorities and the World Health Organization said that the first known patient showed symptoms on December 8, and that most of the subsequent cases had links to the seafood market, which was eventually closed on January 1. The research went on to say that based on the genome data, it was possible that the virus began spreading from person to person in early December, or even as early as late November. The study concerning whether Hunan market is the only birthplace of SARS-CoV-2 is of great significance for finding its source and determining the intermediate host, so as to control the epidemic and prevent it from spreading again. The scientists also said that although China's National Center for Disease Control and Prevention issued a level 2 emergency warning about the new coronavirus on January 6, the information was not widely shared. I'll share a link to that from that study's YouTube channel in my notes. So, how does it spread? You're probably wondering, might be concerned. The coronaviruses are passed on by droplet infections. And the virus multiplies in the throat. From there, the pathogens can be expelled from the body faster than from the lungs, for example, by sneezing, coughing, or blowing your nose. This way, the SARS-CoV-2 spreads onto surfaces where it comes into contact with mucous membranes and infects others by smear infection via the hands. Now, breathing masks offer little protection to healthy people. So when worn, the masks become moist, and so after about 20 minutes, they really deteriorate. So I don't know if masks will help you if you are not infected. Although I probably would want to wear one. I kind of was thinking about doing it myself. It's if you can get it, I would. What else can you do besides staying home to avoid contracting or spreading the virus? Well, of course, wash your hands. Being vigilant with this simple task has helped in our home. We also noticed a reduction in colds by keeping a fresh bottle of our favorite liquid hand soap handy at each sink in the house. Only in our culture, like many others, our custom is to kiss or shake hands. Now, might not be a good time to, refrain from touching other people's faces, stop shaking hands, and minimize physical contact. You could wave or nod or bow. People will understand. Now, some myths and facts. So, regularly rinsing your nose with saline will prevent infection. Myth. The fact is, there's no evidence to support the claim that regularly rinsing your nostrils out with saline will protect you from infection with the new coronavirus. Gargling mouthwash will stop the spread of the virus. Myth. The fact is that some mouthwash brands can eliminate certain microbes in your saliva for a few minutes, but it will not protect you from the coronavirus. Receiving parcels and letters from China is unsafe. That is also a myth. People receiving parcels from China are not at risk of contracting the new coronavirus, as it does not survive long on objects. And finally, pets can spread the coronavirus. Myth. There is no evidence to suggest pets such as cats and dogs can be infected or transmit the coronavirus. I'm Sabah Fakuri for the Heart and Home podcast. I'll talk to you tomorrow, where I will have a story about hydrogen peroxide. Have a great day.